Hi guys, Kurt at Goovnia Music here. In this video we're going to talk about the master fader. I do something a little different. I create a traditional Pro Tools master fader right here, but right prior to it I will create two auxiliary stereo tracks. And I'm sending all the tracks I've recorded and the effects returns to this first aux called submix. Then that aux is directly feeding this aux, which I call real master. All my processing is on this second auxiliary. The reason I do that is because master faders in Pro Tools, the inserts are post fader, which behaves different than any other track in Pro Tools, and I like my processing to be on a track that behaves like any other track in Pro Tools. If I'm working with a client and I know I'm going to be doing the record from beginning to end, in other words, tracking it, mixing, mastering it, I will track into my limiter. I will have that on from the very beginning. It doesn't make any sense to me to be working on a song or a record through the tracking and the mixing and the mastering stages, getting it to sound exactly the way I want to, and then putting something on it afterwards, even if it's supposedly the most transparent limiter in the world. I'd rather just be watching the volumes and tweaking them through the whole tracking, mixing, mastering process, and then I'll end up at the volume of my reference track anyway. Another thing I notice happening is when people are working on their sessions, they'll accidentally nudge the master fader or the volume of their effects returns inadvertently. And I don't want that to happen. I want them to stay at unity. So a trick I use is I go out way past where the song is ended, and I'll hit the volume automation on the reverb here, duck it down, just a little spot delay. I'm not going to do that to my submix, and I'll show you why later. But on my real master, where all my processing is, and the Pro Tools master, I will just lock it in. So if I inadvertently hit those faders during the process of working on this song, it'll just lock back into unity. That's got everything to do with love. Now again, this submix is the only one that I don't have locked in, and that's because I want to be able to adjust this volume so that I'm hitting my mix bus compressor, which is the first insert on my master fader, at about 2 decibels of gain reduction. I also like to have it on auto release, ratio of 2, attack 10. It's giving me a transparent yet somewhat gluey sound. That's got everything to do with love. I'm not saying you should leave, I just need some room to breathe. That's got everything to do, everything to do. Now the next thing in my master bus processing is an EQ where I've dipped out around 350 hertz. It's just a trashy, unclear frequency range. So that's on my master fader before I'm even tracking. Now the next one is another EQ where I'm just going to dip out frequencies in about 4 spots to make it more clear. Let's have a listen. Don't want someone in my face, and when you give someone this space, that's got everything to do with love. I'm not saying you should leave, I just need some room to breathe. That's got everything to do. Now you notice I'm just finding some spots that are unclear and nasty and dipping them out a couple dB. Now it's subtle, but let's listen to the difference when I bypass it and then bring it back in. That's got it.
love. I'm not saying you should leave. I just need some room to breathe. And that's got everything to do. Everything to do.
So you can hear it makes the master clearer. Now the last thing in my processing is a limiter, which I'm going to want to be hitting at about 10 dB gain reduction, just as a general rule. And then I'm going to be A-Bing between that and this reference track I have here, which by the way is not going through my master bus processing. You just want it to be going to the output.
That's got everything to do.
So you can see volume-wise, we're in the ballpark. Also clarity-wise, we're in the ballpark. That's why we use reference tracks.